Hi, I am Luke Oxley, a veteran of Team 6498, and in this video I will be explaining how to cut and strip wire. Now the first thing to keep in mind when cutting wire is to never use scissors. This is because it quickly dulls them or can even break them. Now the first tool and the most common tool we use to cut wire are side cuts. That's because these are specifically designed to cut wire. So to use them, you use them kind of like scissors. You place the wire all the way down as far as it'll go, squeeze together, and you cut the wire. Also to keep in mind, these are called side cuts, so they do only cut on the side. Now the next tool to cut wire are wire strippers. Now they are specifically designed to strip wire, but they also do have a portion to cut wire. So same thing, you place the wire all the way down and you cut the wire. Now the least common tool to use to cut wire are needle nose pliers. This is because they aren't really very good at it, but the same process for cutting wire applies to these. You place it all the way down, squeeze, and you cut the wire. Now things to keep in mind when cutting wire are that if you're working in a really tight area, like a robot, be aware of any surrounding wires so that you don't cut them. It's very easy to do that. Also, when you're cutting a wire, leave way more than you think. That's because it's way easier to shorten a wire than to lengthen it. Now for the stripping segment. Whenever we strip wire, we do this in order to expose the bare wire to make connections. Now, we have two types of strippers. The first one are the manual strippers. And different wires have different gauges or sizes. For the wire gauges, a larger number means a smaller diameter, and a smaller number means a larger diameter. It's kind of backwards. Now, whenever we strip a wire, we usually know what gauge it is so that we can line it up in the correct hole. Now for wire gauges, we usually use 12 gauge. This is 12 gauge right here for motor wire, and 18 gauge for just about everything else, other than for signal wire, it's usually 22 or 24. So since this is 12 gauge wire, we're going to line it up in the hole that says 12 gauge. Then you squeeze the tool together, and especially for large wire, it can be sometimes hard to strip it. So hold the wire with your other hand and press against the tool with your thumb. That kind of provides leverage, and you strip the wire. Now for wire that isn't solid core, so you see all these messy strands, you want to make sure that every time you strip it, that you twist them nice and tight, and that makes connecting the wire to anything way easier, rather than it just kind of going everywhere, like that. Now also, if you don't know the wire gauge, it'll sometimes say along the length of the wire what gauge it is, or also you can just start from a smaller gauge and work your way up until it actually strips the wire. Now, for the automatic strippers, these are mainly used for a smaller diameter wire, such as our PWM wire or CAN wire. Now there is a clamping side and a cutting side. So this side, whenever we squeeze the tool down, will clamp the wire, and this side, the sharp side, actually cuts it. Now on this tool, you can see that it does have numbers for each slot on what gauge it is. It's kind of hard to see. But this wire, you probably can't see it, but it does say 22 gauge along it. So we're going to put it in the hole that says 22 gauge. And whenever you use this tool, the main thing to keep in mind is to squeeze it all the way, because if you don't completely squeeze it, it'll mess up the cut. So you'll see this side has clamped down, and this side is just going to pull the insulation off, like that. And so that's how to use these. So also, another thing to keep in mind is whenever we strip multi-conductor cable, so that is, this wire actually has 3 individual wires inside it that are inside one large insulation. This is usually for things like PWM connections or CAN connections. So to get the insulation off, what I usually do is I take the wire strippers, because they do have a pretty sharp edge right here, and you just kind of gently press down and work your way around the insulation. You got to be really careful though not to cut the wires on the inside, otherwise you'll damage them. Then once you work your way around, you should be able to pull it off. Looks like I didn't do it all the way. And there we go. So in this case, this is 3-conductor cable because it has 3 wires. And that's all. Thanks for watching.